Hi, hello everyone. Welcome to DragonTooth Miniatures. And my name is Bill, and this is Mr. Ryan.
Hey there.
We've just started this channel to share our experiences and to share our knowledge about, all things like wargaming, miniature hobbying. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Mr. Ryan, just in general, what do you do?
Right, so I've been gaming for kind of a long time. I guess I'm kind of one of the older graying kind of gamers. I started way back when I was like about 10 years old with they called it the Red Box Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know if you've seen it, the old D&D set, right?
Oh, yeah.
Then I got into Battletech when I was 12 years old.
Oh, wow.
Because
Okay.
my dad was into it, so he bought a set, so that's kind of how I got into it. And then right out from that point onwards, I was playing just about everything. I was never really sort of in a niche or really specialized in anything. I played card games like Star Wars and Magic. I played just about everything, right? And when I was about 13, 14, I went over to Perth to study, and I went into boarding school there. And that's sort of when my gaming habits started to change a bit. Because when you're in boarding school, you don't really have a room of your own per se. You don't really have your own place. So it's kind of difficult to play the games that need like a lot of logistics. I'm okay, mainly Warhammer, because where am I going to keep it, right? I have like one room. I'm a boarding school student. So even though I started playing Warhammer sometime in the 90s, this was around second edition, I didn't really have a chance to kind of get into it because I was studying overseas. I had no room. Obviously, I had no money as well, right?
Oh, yeah. The quintessential poor student getting into Warhammer.
Yeah, and poor student without kind of a house to live in as well, effectively, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
yeah.
I just played that for like a little while, and I came back to Singapore. Went to the army, and I didn't touch it again for many many years. Just because life caught up with me. I was always intending to, get back to it, but I never did. I think I was about in my 30s again when I finally decided to kind of jump back into it. I think we were around, what is it, fifth edition, sixth edition already by then, right? And then I played it sort of
I
on
think
and
so. Yep, it's
off.
about that.
Uh,
Yeah.
But I only really started to get seriously into the hobby and into the painting aspect probably about 4 years ago. That was when, due to delusions of what I was capable of, I decided that I'm gonna take time off every day. I'm gonna practice painting every day. I'm gonna pay actual money to travel around and meet these other painters and really get into it.
Oh.
So
Well, that's not necessarily a bad thing. You had a hobby epiphany.
I think it's
Essentially.
I think it's kind of an age thing as well. I don't know about others. For me, I mean, in my experience, the people that I know, right, they tend to start off mainly as like gaming and fun, and then the serious hobbying bit kind of kicks in a little bit later, or it sort of follows that. I know for some people it's the other way around.
Yeah, some people I know their hobbying kicks off really early and they just never progress into the gaming and like fun bit. They're just like, I like dioramas, I like painting, I like hobbying, which is fantastic, but
True, and
that's not
conversely, you get people who are into the gaming and just never progress to the hobby bit.
exactly. There's varying degrees of both sides. I am not as old as Mr. Ryan. I would consider myself one of the more experienced, people in the hobby. I started about like 16 years ago when I was like around 8, actually. I originally heard about it from my primary school friends. We went to like a pretty posh school, so there was like a small Warhammer club at our primary school, and I was always like kind of looking at the kids there, and always going like, I don't know what this is, but this looks really cool. And I didn't actually get my first miniature at all until my aunt got married in the UK. I went over there. I just took my chance with my new soon to be uncle and just nudged him and just went like, I'll behave if you like get me some Warhammer. I'll behave for the wedding if you get me some Warhammer. It was a bit of like a impromptu blackmail just over there, but got me my
Games
Warhammer.
Workshop, international babysitter.
Yes, yes. I enjoyed it for up until I was about like 12, 13. And then teenage years, I kind of petered out a little bit. Got into Dungeons& Dragons 3.5. My middle school and high school group was really, really into like Dungeons& Dragons. We're at the stage where we're still really poor. Our parents are not really into giving us like large amounts of allowances and stuff like that to keep going with the Warhammer hobby now that we're kind of supposed to fend for ourselves a little bit. Yeah, Dungeons & Dragons seemed like the perfect progression. Low model count. You can even just play the game with just a mat and like paper, paper stands and like your imagination, and that was it. And that was great for us until I got back into Warhammer actually in uni when I was working like 2 jobs to support my to pay for my uni, and then for some reason I decided to walk into a Games Workshop, and the Games Workshop manager at that time in Cheltenham in Melbourne got me back into it, and and thankfully I managed to graduate and did actually pay my uni and everything like on time. But it was like, Warhammer did not make it easy on me. But I got past it, and when I moved to Singapore for a job opportunity, I kind of got back into Warhammer a little bit, but wasn't really sure because don't know really anyone in Singapore, and tried to really it was a good way of me meeting new people, but was still a bit shy, new, just off the boat, that kind of thing, don't really know anyone. Then things started kicking off when I got hired to become a Games Workshop manager. That's where my Warhammer hobby really kicked off, and that's almost when I had my that's probably when I had my hobby epiphany, where it's just like got seriously into like the painting and the modeling and the conversions and stuff like that. And even that was probably about the time where I got in, I was a lot more relaxed as like a hobbyist and a gamer, because before that I was like extremely into the competitive side, extremely into competitions, 3 colors and a base, it's good to go, let's do this. Yeah, that's how I started in that's a brief history of how I got started into the hobby, into miniature painting and gaming.
A good part of how you get introduced to these things is surprisingly about the logistics of what you have and kind of where you're from. Like you mentioned, for example, when you were playing Dungeons and Dragons, you had the models already.
Yep.
Yeah, so when I was playing D&D, we never use models and we never use maps. But that's because it was a bunch of us squeezed into like a cubicle in a boarding school. So we played it pretty much like how some very old school second ed players would play it, without the map, just entirely in our heads, right?
Whoa, okay, yeah, wow.
So that could also be sort of and there is I know that there's a bunch of RPGers out there who do this, who don't actually use the maps and the models. And I saw that discrepancy the first time I walked into a game store, and some people were talking about whether the expansion should be in boxes, because expansions could be either like a book or a box, right?
Yep.
And the box, you had the maps and everything, and some people were saying, it's really hard to play a game without the box because you don't have a map, you can't really DM from that. And there was another batch of people who were saying we prefer the books and we don't see the difference because we don't use the maps and we don't use the models.
Yep, exactly.
And that's when I sort of realized that really it's about your immediate situation, because some people don't have the table space and just the room for that.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Well, we'll get into more in-depth conversation about that later on in our first episode. On to our next point. Our aim with the channel is a way for us to share our opinions and help build a community to help new players unsure about getting into these hobbies, or that have unanswered questions. So obviously we've both got like tons of experience in like various different war games and like board games. So we're here to help, and we are really really passionate about like obviously playing, painting, and building. And honestly, at least for me, right, it was one of the few ways that I could like connect with people and make friends and stuff like that, because I was a fairly like I was put in a situation where it's just like you literally have to start from scratch when you move from one country to another. So very few situations like could like where you feel like that isolated and that alone. And wargaming was my way of like connecting with people and making some wonderful and amazing friends here.
Yeah,
And
these games sometimes they connect you where other things don't.
yep.
I was in Taiwan with the Air Force for like 45 days. Uh, didn't really know anyone there, but I did manage to play a few games of Magic with some of the locals. So yeah, sometimes just
Yeah.
over distance.
Sometimes you just need a common language, a common culture, I guess, like which card games, board games, like war games, just like tend to speak with people on just like a kind of common ground, and you all know what's happening.
It's kind of common frame of reference, right?
Yeah. It's like a north star when it comes to socializing, I guess. It's been a wonderful journey. It's been a wonderful journey. But yeah, that's what we hope to share, and what we hope to foster here at our channel. You can help by following us on Instagram at DragonTooth Makes, and please like and subscribe and comment if there's anything particular you'd like us to talk about, because although we're experienced, we're still learning. We're still learning, and we'd hope to learn together with all of you. Thank you very much, and we hope you enjoy yourselves here.